So, hi. Right now it's just Jetta, but we're going to do an introduction just for the sake of YouTube and like future trainings. I'm Tiffany Scrivener. As of current, I am a 12% leader here in pharmacy, and I've been around since the end of November of last year, 2022. And tonight, I'm going to be giving you an important set of tools in your little tool belt for self-belief and building healthy habits. So, hi guys, let me go ahead and share my screen after I get this up as a presentation. Hey. Okay, we're going to share this. Present full screen. Okay, it's going to say that it's paused, but hopefully if it doesn't show you guys my screen, just go ahead and unmute yourselves and be like, hey, we can't see it. So let's just go straight into it. We're going to do an introduction speech that I just did, talk about what self-belief is, what a habit is, how they coexist and intertwine, and how you can use them to better yourself and better your business. So we already did the introduction. Self-belief in its literal definition is the confidence in your own abilities and judgments. My definition is that it's the opposite of self-doubt. So when we have self-doubt, it has a negative impact on literally every aspect of our lives, including our business. So when you tell yourself over and over and over again that you're not successful, or you don't have what it takes to be successful, or you're not organized, or you don't have what it takes to be organized, you're literally telling your brain these things, and your brain is hardwired to do habits that make these things true. So your brain's like, oh, I'm not capable, so let me find evidence and let me make you do actions to prove that you're not capable, which means that you're not going to show up consistently in your business, if at all, if you're telling yourself you don't know what you're doing, or you're not capable of being a leader, or you don't know how to lead, or you don't know how to get prospects, or you don't know, all of the things. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to ask to unmute. So the list goes on. And this is why tuning into trainings, self-development workshops, podcasts, self-development books, and more is so important, because you're reinforcing your self-belief and empowering yourself with knowledge. So when you go to these self-development things, or listen to these books or podcasts, or read these books or podcasts, or go to your trainings, and you're constantly being told, here is knowledge, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, you're telling your brain, okay, now I have this knowledge, all I have to do is apply it, and I am capable of applying it. So how can we start strengthening our self-belief outside of just going to these trainings, or reading these books, or listening to these podcasts and so on? The first step is to change what you are telling yourself. So sometimes, even when we're trying to be positive, there's still like that negative little loophole there, and we're still stuck in that loop of self-doubt. So for example, let's say you've decided to quit smoking. You're like, I'm done smoking cigarettes, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. And someone offers you a cigarette, or you're at work and on break somebody else has a cigarette and they're like, hey, do you want one of these? And you say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. So that sounds good at first, but when you break it down, in a sense, you're telling yourself you're still a smoker, but you're trying not to be. So instead of saying, I'm trying to blah, 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 or I'm trying not to, then you can say, no thanks, I don't smoke, or no thanks, I'm not a smoker. And you're telling yourself you're not a smoker. So that makes that habit, or that habit change that you're trying to do, it makes it much more believable to your brain. And Courtney says it well when she says hope isn't a business plan. So when you say, I hope I hit 3%, you're telling yourself that you're not 3% and that you don't have 3% material. You're telling yourself that even though you want to be 3%, technically you're not there yet. So instead of telling yourself, I want to be 3%, or I hope to be 3%, you could say, I am 3%. And you will work toward proving that to be true. So when we're telling our brain we are 3%, and this is just a small step, you're going to start showing up as that. So you'll show up as a 3% bonus earner. You'll do the tasks. You'll build the relationships. You'll touch base with your team as someone at 3% would do. And the same goes on with each rank. Whatever your goal is, if you tell yourself you're already at that level, you're already at that rank, you're already at that title, then you're going to start showing up as somebody that would be that title. So stop telling yourself I'm trying and start telling yourself I am, and then fill in the blank from there. So what is a habit? Habit is a tendency that we do without having to give it any thought. So habits are something kind of like waking up. You wake up, you get dressed, you make your bed if you're, an overachiever. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you wake up, you eat breakfast. Whenever you leave the house, you lock the door. You probably do these things without much thought. And so when we're trying to develop a new habit or break a bad habit, we kind of approach it from the wrong direction. We focus on the goal that we want instead of the person that we want to become. So when we focus on outcome-based habits versus identity-based habits, we're going to get more into that in the next few slides, but we're not really telling our brains the wiring that it needs to be able to make these habits work for us. So the most effective way to develop or demolish a habit is not by focusing on what you want to achieve, but who do you want to be? What kind of person achieves those things? So if you decide you want to be healthier, but you focus your habit on losing weight, you might be sending your brain the message, I'm unhealthy because I need to lose weight. And because you're telling yourself you're not a healthy person, it makes it harder to focus on the habit of making healthier choices, such as eating more fruits and vegetables or drinking more water or being more active, etc. But if you switch your mindset to I am a person who makes healthy decisions instead of I'm trying to lose weight, it's going to be easier to stick with that habit because you're telling your brain you're the type of person to have that habit. You're the type of person that makes those goals. You're the type of person who reaches those achievements. So don't focus on a long-term or a short-term goal, but focus on a long-term reward, which is the person that you want to become. So how do they coexist? I'm sure by now you guys are kind of probably piecing it together. And if you're not, then maybe you're not listening. I'm just kidding. You've probably caught on by now, and if not, I'm probably explaining it wrong. But behavior change comes from identity change. When you commit to believing an aspect about your identity, the more likely you're going to take action in alignment with that belief. So it's kind of a cycle of a double-edged sword. As I mentioned before, if you tell yourself that I'm not capable, your brain is going to look for evidence that you're not capable, and you're going to continue to prove yourself right and not being capable. However, if you decide that you're going to be this top leader and you tell yourself that you're going to lead or give your team vision, you're going to help lead your team to higher ranks for themselves, you're going to get a bigger customer base, whatever. If you decide that that's the person you want to be and you tell yourself you're that person, you will start to move in alignment to prove with small actions that you are that person, which leads to a bigger impact. So the most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do and vice versa. So change what you do by changing who you believe you are. And the more we stick with these habits, the more we're providing ourselves with proof of who we are. So say, for example, you tell yourself that you're not a healthy person. You're like, I just can't do it. It's just too hard. Then you're going to start proving that to yourself by leaning towards, cookies or junk food. But if you tell yourself, I am a healthy person, and you focus on that every single day, you're going to lean more towards eating healthier foods and drinking more water. And that's providing proof, hey, I am a healthier person because I am doing these things. And then it's just easier to believe that you're that person. Hopefully I'm making sense. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I don't know how to reiterate what I'm trying to say. So habits, whenever you think of habits, like you're just like, oh gosh, it's almost like New Year's resolutions. They almost seem too daunting or too big because it's just like, oh, I really don't want to do that because then I have to change my train of thought or my train of action. So how can we make habits more appealing to us? So I've been reading the book Atomic Habits, which is what inspired this training tonight. When referring to Atomic Habits, which is by James Clear, habits are kind of broke up into 4 steps. The cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And I wish I would have grabbed the book because they have some examples. But anyways, I have one on mind. Habits are driven by wanting to solve a problem. Sometimes that problem can just be wanting to obtain something good. And sometimes it's wanting to relieve pain or discomfort. So like, for example, say your cue is that you're starting to get stressed. You're starting to feel some stress, and then the craving becomes the cigarette. So the response is you grab a cigarette, you put it in your mouth, you light it, and the reward is you feel less stressed. Does that make sense? So when focusing on habits, rather than focusing on the goal of what you want to achieve, focus on what you want to become and what relief that brings or problem that is solving. So I'm going to dig into that more in a few minutes. For example, let's say the problem is you're wanting to be 18%, and that could be like the problem of wanting something good. So first, what kind of self-doubt might we be experiencing when we say we want to be 18%? Maybe you're saying to yourself, I'm trying to sponsor people, or I don't know how to sponsor people. Or maybe you're saying, I'm trying to get more sales, but I don't know how to get sales. Or I don't know how to do parties. I suck at parties. And so you're just having like all of these train of thoughts of what's blocking you from getting to 18%. So let's switch those self-doubts into self-belief, such as I'm an 18% leader that attracts runners who become active in their first month to my team. And I'm a successful network marketer who attracts high-paying customers that return for refills and refer me to their friends. Think, what would an 18% leader say to themselves? How would an 18% leader show up? And then next, you would go through these types of habits an 18% leader would have. So you kind of just like step into the role of the person you want to be. And when you start showing up as that person, you're going to start getting results that person would get. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but we can't wait until we get to our destination to decide that we're going to show up as that person, because that's not how it works. If you right now are not 18% material, if you're telling yourself that, and then you hit 18%, you're going to have no idea how to handle that. So where are we at? Oh, so your brain goes through the 4 cues every single time, and it creates a loop, which turns into a habit. So when creating habits, you have to think of the person you want to be and how rewarding that is. What problem are you solving by becoming that person? So what rewards come from the habits of an 18% leader? Their customer base is growing, their team is growing, their paycheck is growing, their mind is growing, and they have, great friends that they get to work alongside. They watch confidence grow in their customers as they start to fall in love with products or get results from the products. Guys, we have life-changing products. Some people, their insecurity is maybe they're balding or their hairline's receding, and we have products to help that. Maybe it's acne. I know for me, acne was a defeating thing. Selling or skincare solves that problem. And watching people build confidence, like that feels good. It feels good to know that you helped somebody and you were part of that process. So, and then maybe they get $400 or more a month. I don't know what an 18% leader makes, but I know the average is like 372 or around there somewhere. And maybe that $400 is their car payment and they don't have to struggle in between checks. Or maybe that's putting money into the savings account for a family vacation every month. Maybe that's paying for Christmas. Maybe it's paying for birthday parties. And then their mindset is a growth mindset. Guys, once you step into growth, once you level up in your mindset, you never go back. You always have that knowledge. You always have that growth, and you can always kind of switch your thinking from things happen to me to I get to do things because this has happened. These things happen for me. Leaders are always learning, and they're always leveling up. They're always growing, and they're more positive. How many of you have seen one of the directors or people higher up on the compensation plan be a negative Nancy? You don't. because they have such a great positive mindset that they're constantly reading, they're constantly learning, they're constantly showing up to trainings and things like that to have that mindset. So once you create these habits, working your business is going to become second nature. We just have to figure out how can we make these habits more appealing. And one of the things that helps me is to think of the big rewards, the big reward of the kind of person you're going to be, how it's going to change your life. I mean, on Rise and Grind this morning, we literally heard how a mom got to quit her corporate job, come home, and she got to get her kid off the bus for the first time. She got her kid off to school for the first time. And like, that makes me emotional. I literally just like felt heat rise up. So think of like the life-changing impact it can make when you're switching these habits, and just tell yourself, if I do this, then I will get this. So tonight's homework, we're going to break it down. Let's talk about the summary of this. Habits and self-belief coexist. If we want to have a behavior change, we first must have a change in belief of our identity. So we have to change what we're telling ourselves. Do I have an in summary on here? I don't. When we perform habits and stick with them, we're providing proof of who we believe we are. So whenever we consistently stick with habits and we stick to them and we do them every day and we make them a routine, not only are they going to become second nature and we don't even think about it, but also we're providing proof to ourselves that we are the type of person that we're set out to be. So we can make habits more appealing by focusing not on the short-term goal of what we want to achieve, but like the person we want to be and the life-changing things that they're going to do for us. So tonight's homework, screenshot this. I'm going to move my little mouse out of the way. We're going to take all of our self-doubt statements and turn them into self-belief statements. So instead of I'm trying, or I don't know, or I can't, we're going to say I am. And then we're going to think of the person that we want to be. What is your highest rank that you want to achieve? Like, what do you want from pharmacy? And then we're going to write down the habits of that type of person and how they would show up for their business. Once we write down those habits, we want to think of the rewards you would get from being that person and showing up as such. What are we going to get out of committing these habits daily and sticking to them? What kind of goals would you achieve? Now that you have all this written down, step into that knowledge. Don't just write these down, guys. Don't just be like, this is what will happen. Apply it. You have the knowledge, you have the things. Do say and believe the things that your dream self would be. And if you want to be something, you have to show up as that. There's no, I'll be that person when I'm 18%. You have to act as if you were already there, and that's how you will become that. Do we have any questions? Don't be shy.
Were we supposed to see slides? Because I didn't see any.
You didn't?
No.
It's okay.
It stayed on one slide the whole time. I said something earlier, I thought, right? Didn't I?
You probably did. That sucks.
Yeah, I said if the slide's supposed to be moving.
It's okay. I have a
PDF. Man, that's our MO.
We got to figure that out. What is going on? I'm a person who has consistent slides that move during my Zooms.
I figured. I don't know. I was like, maybe she's doing something different.
I have a PDF I can send in the group chat too, so that's fine.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Also, I think this was amazing. It was like a therapy session. Thank y'all.
You're welcome. I'm glad. I know I've literally been reading the book. I'm gonna stop. Does anybody have questions? Any questions? Last chance for questions. We're gonna stop recording. How do I stop recording?
Press stop recording.
Oh, there's